In this video, I'm going to show you how to go in and prepare your grade center at the beginning of the semester. So in the course menu, you're going to go down to the section on course management, and you're going to expand the grade center section of that part of the menu. And everything that I'm going to show you how to do is all going to be in the full grade center area of the course. Okay. When you roll your course over from semester to semester, a lot of times there are columns that are automatically added to the grade center by default that maybe you don't want anymore or don't apply to the type of grade center that you're using. Also, there are some columns in the grade center that basically are not really usable for anybody and are just viewed by faculty. So I'm going to start off by showing you how to go in and turn some columns off that you don't want to see. And there's actually a couple ways you can do this. So for an example, I don't need to see my students' usernames in my grade center. Okay, so I can go to the drop arrow to the right of the heading, and there's an option in there to hide from instructor. And you'll notice that this menu is very small compared to some of the other menus that will pop up if you click on the arrow pointing next to the heading. So it depends on what type of column it is, will depend on what menu will pop up. So if I don't need to see their username, I can click on that arrow and I can tell it to hide it from the instructor. Okay, so this one doesn't, students don't see this anyway. All right, now let's say I also want to get rid of student ID and availability, and I'm going to show you another way to get rid of those. So I'm going to go into Manage and Column Organization. And in this area, you can do many things. You can go in and rearrange your columns. You can hide them, you can delete them, and you can display them as well. So right now I can see the username one that I just hid, but I want to go in and I want to turn off the student ID and availability. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to select those two. Okay, and then up at the top, I'm just going to go to the top and tell it to hide those columns. Now, because I know that these are only available to me as a faculty, I can do it in here without a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and hide those. Okay, and I can see that they're turned off. All right, so those are the two ways. So now I could go in and I could submit that, and I do not see those two columns inside my grade center. Now, in my grade center, I have a column that calculates the final average grade, and I call it overall average. Some of you have it set up underneath weighted total, and some of you are using just the total column to do a total number of points for your grade center. So depending on how you build your grade center, one of these should go away. So if I am doing like a total base grade center, I would want to go in and I would want to get rid of this weighted total. So I'm going to go into the drop arrow here and I'm going to tell it to delete that column. And it's going to warn me that I can't undo it, which I'm okay at this point. There's no grades in there. There's nothing showing up. I haven't even started my course, so I'm safe. So I'm going to go ahead and okay it. And now I have an overall average and a total. Now, this is my final grade. And I don't want the students to see total points because I think it kind of confuses them when they do that. So I don't want this in there. But if I go to the drop arrow here, I don't have an option to delete that column. And that is because this is set as the external grade. And the reason why I know that is because there's a green check in front of it. Okay? And that's a grade that would go out to like Banner Web or whatever site that you were entering final grades in. Not everybody uses Blackboard, so we don't have a location to send a final external grade, so it really wouldn't matter which column you set it up as. So if I wanted to get rid of this total column, what I want to do is assign this as my external grade. So I would go into the drop arrow, and I would have an option to set as an external grade. And you're going to see the green check mark is now moved over here. And if I go to the total, now if I hit the drop arrow, I have delete column. Okay, so it wouldn't let me delete it when that was set as the external grade. So again, if you're using a percentage grade center, you're probably going to keep the weighted total. If you are doing the total number of points grade center, you would keep the total column. Okay, so it all depends on what you're doing for your final. So I'm going to delete that total column. Again, it's telling me it's going to be final. Okay, now as I'm looking across here, I have some columns in my grade center that I rolled over that are hidden. And at this point, I don't want my students to see these. And the reason why I can tell they're hidden from students is there's a circle in front with a line through it. That means students do not see it. If I wanted to show a student that column, I would go to the drop arrow, and there's a toggle, hide from students on off. So if I click on that, now the students will see that column because it doesn't have the circle with a line through it. But I don't want them to see it when they come in. I show them their final letter grade at the end, and I show them, extra credit points that I add after they've earned them or did not earn them. Okay. Also, if I look across in my columns here, I also want to go in and I want to eliminate maybe one of my other columns that I'm not using anymore, and I want to show you something. If I go into, like this one here is a discussion, and it's assigned in the course, it's 100 points, and if I go to the drop arrow on that, notice that there's no option to delete that column. That is a safeguard within Blackboard. You cannot delete a column that's associated with a graded item from within the course. So if I wanted to go in and get rid of this, I would actually have to find the location of where the discussion is in the course and delete it. And then either it will ask me when I delete it, do I want to delete the grade center column, and I would just say yes. Or if I forgot to say yes on that, I could come back in here and delete would be one of the options. But Blackboard will not let you delete something that is associated with points inside the course. So you have to delete it there first before it'll let you eliminate the column. Okay. I do have some columns that I'm manually entering in, so I do have the option to delete those, but I want to keep those in my grade center, and right now I don't have them turned on for students to see. Okay, so that's how you can hide things from the instructor, or you can hide them from the students. Okay, now the next thing is going in and rearranging columns. So I'm going to go back into that Manage tab again, go back into Column Organization, and I arrange my columns based on the due dates, so I can actually see what order my due dates are in here. So actually in this one I do it by what type of assignment they are. So I can see I've got my discussions together here, and they're in order by their due date, and then down here I've got the lessons, and they're in the order by their due date as well. Okay, if there was something in there that I wanted to move around, I could go in and grab, there's a 4-prong arrow in front of something, and I can click and drag it, and I can move it within the order. Okay, so that's one way for you to go in. You can reorder them, and when you're done, you submit, and it will keep the order that you just did. Okay, now also in here, if I have set up a percentage grade center, I want to make sure that the grades that I'm using inside my course have been assigned the correct category. So this is an area where you can see what categories are assigned assignments within your course. Okay, so that's one thing I can see in here. Another thing I can see in here is the due dates. I can also see the date that it was created, and I can see the possible number of points for the assignment. Okay, so at this point, I've got them in the order that I want. I've rearranged them. I've hid what I want hidden, and then I can submit to keep the formatting that I want. Okay. All right. So the big thing is when you roll your grade center over, you might have an extra column or two in there with the weighted total and the total column. Okay. You don't want to just hide them, because if you look at Manage Column Organization, you might see that you still have old columns in here hidden from previous semesters. So really what you should do is show them and delete them out of your grade center to get rid of them. Okay, so at this point I've showed you how to go in and rearrange them, how to hide them, how to show them, If you need to change a category, you can select something in here, and you can come up here and change it to a different category within your grade center. Okay. You can also delete from here. I just think it's safer to do it through the actual columns themselves by hitting the drop arrow, and then you can see whether there's even an option to be able to delete it. Okay. Another area that might be helpful in here is if you go to the drop arrow, you can also change the due dates in here for certain assignments. So if you wanted to go in and you roll it over one semester to the next, you could go in and change the due dates in here. And then once you've changed the due dates, you can go back in and manage column organization, and you'll be able to double check and make sure that the due dates make sense for the assignments. Okay, so those are some of the things that you should do every semester when you roll your courses over.